She's just a little rabbit, little princess. You're not gonna be able to die, are ya? Well, sadly, you are, because this woman is probably going to be your main boss slayer for the rest of the bosses from here on. Well, for the most part. But anyway, the Princess Hydra. If you remember the Hydra from the Lakebed Temple, then you'll probably know how to handle this boss, sort of. But in case anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, the main thing you need for this is three things. You need Aya in your party to cast favorable wind to affect breath attacks. You need Reisen to help debuff this thing, and you need a physical attacker to actually just get the buff in. But in the meantime, though, the most you really have to do at this point is to just power him down enough that he can't hit you. And power yourself up as much as well. But as long as you're affecting the breath attacks, this thing can't hurt you for the most part. The only other way it can hurt you is with a basic physical attack, but you'll probably already debuffed it so much that it can't do anything to you. So even if a breath gets through, which it won't, and even if it does do a basic physical attack to hurt you, it's not going to hit you. If you don't feel confident enough, you can have Reisen and Byakuren cast some debuffs on its accuracy and its physical attacks for the most part. But again, really, there's really not much to worry about with this thing, because it's just a thing. But if you feel very uncomfortable with it being able to hit you, you can have Sana in your party to have your HP up and heal you. And such as well, with your defenses and HP up and all that. You can have all that in there as well. But for the most part, this is all this fight really is. Reflective breath attack, so it can't hit you for the most part, and just debuff it to the point of no return, I should say. To the point of no return. It will cast all sorts of breaths though, so unless you feel ballsy and you want to try like an all-element immune thing, then you're not going to be able to do much. But for the most part, that's really all this boss has to offer. There's not much else going for it. Now, with that said, next you just want to focus on buffing up your party members, physical attacks and whatever, so that they can do much damage. But yes, Reisen's going to be your boss slayer for a lot of the post-game bosses. You don't believe me? Well, looking at her basic stats, she's not going to be able to do too much. But what she lacks in physical attacks, she comes in with a lot of slayers. Reisen has the ability to have a slayer on almost every single type of monster in the entire game. And that means that she also has a slayer for monsters with a variety status or permanent status. And he already has 2 variety stats on him. She also has a Kusanagi, which has a slayer against dragons, and when you know it, this thing's a dragon. So, all that stacked on top of what she has now, she's not going to have a hard time dealing with a boss like this. As long as she has Eye in your party to reflect breath, some buffs to go along with it, and maybe an induction up to make sure that you can actually land those annoying statuses, those variety statuses, then who knows? But really, again, all it's going to do is to try and hit you with breath attacks, if not in just a basic physical attack. And even then, that's already an easy thing to hit it with. Let's do physical attack, why not? You also want to bring in a... What is it? You also want to bring in another physical attacker that can do physical attacks with either a slashing weapon, excuse me, either with a slashing weapon or just a weapon in general that has a Slayer to Dragons. And at this point, I have Yuki here who has the Galaxy, which has a Slayer against Dragons. So, yeah, this thing is just going to get murdered in a couple of turns. So, one more time, let's reflect breath, just cast statuses on it, have Yuki go all out on it. Give yourself an induction up in case you don't feel confident with your himself, for whatever reason. And after that, just wail on him. That's really all there is to this one. It's a bit drawn out. It's kind of a tedium boss. But once you have a perfect setup for this, you're pretty much going to kick this thing's butt in a quick second. There's nothing it can do to you. You can only just damage it to death, and yeah, there's nothing this thing can do at this point. But what am I trying to say here? If you want to have more of a backup for yourself, you can cast a... You can have Yomu as your party member to cast half resistance and crit damage for whenever you need to. So that whenever you actually get your physical attackers going, they'll just kill it off. But with that said, that's pretty much all this boss is. Just wail on him with Slayer from Reisen and you're good. Probably the next easiest thing to get if you have the proper setup, but the point is having a proper setup for this. If you don't have another person to cast, like, or another physical attacker that has a Dragon Slayer along with Reisen, you can have somebody like maybe Pacholi, or no, somebody like Rainbow, because this thing is neutral to light and dark spells, along with slashing. But again, that's really if you really want to try something other than another physical attacker, or if you don't have another person that can, you know, do Slayer on dragons. But yeah, this bunny, this Widow Wabbit, she's not to be messed with. She will prove to be a very, very powerful ally in post-game.